thought it was great. Again, the intensity rises a little bit. I thought guys went out there, especially coming off a day off, and played well. We're just going to continue to stack these days and get better.
What have you done, obviously, taking a new role as starter this season and not having that for the past couple of years? What do you have to do to change your mindset and now kind of be that guy, whereas before, you kind of have a specific role as a backup?
Well, I don't think it necessarily changes my mindset. I think as a backup, you have to prepare like you're the starter. So the last couple of years, that's been my mentality. So for me, nothing's really changed. Just continuing to build chemistry with our guys and making sure that everybody's on the same page so that when we get out there, we're rolling.
Do you feel like maybe you have more of a vocal leadership, though, in this position, or voice?
Yeah, I would say so. That comes with the position. But I think, especially with the Raiders, it was a lot of guys and we all collaborated and try to make the offense what it was. So I don't feel like I'm saying more than I need to, or if there's any sort of like weirdness or awkwardness for me. So I'm very comfortable with where I'm at, and just continue trying to help these guys feel comfortable, and so we can go out there and play well.
Marcus, how long were you with Coach Smith before you realized what his family background was? He's got a unique background for a coach.
Right. Honestly, I think probably a couple of years. I had no idea.
So obviously it's not something that he talks about at all, is it?
No, not at all.
Do you ever notice that he talks, though, in sort of business language? He does up here with us sometimes. Uses phrases that you would more closely associate with business stuff and football stuff. Has that ever popped in your head?
Not necessarily. He might be a little different when he's with you guys than maybe in a team meeting. But no, I think Art has always been very personal with all of us and has been straight since the start.
If you were born into a billion-dollar corporation or whatever it is, do you think you can play football?
I'm a little weird. I love the game. I think I would be. And I think that's what's really cool with Coach Smith is that his passion, I think you can, obviously he doesn't need to be doing something like this, but I think his passion, his drive, his motivation is so great. And I love being around it. And I think when you're a guy that's in that situation and that position, and you're out here every day pushing your guys and leading the way that he leads, it's fun to be around.
I think it maybe makes him a little bit different as a coach than maybe other coaches you've been around because, like you said, he doesn't necessarily need to be here.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think like if you ask a lot of guys, if you didn't know his background, you would have no idea. I think that's kind of how he carries himself. So. As a coach, the way that he leads, the way he communicates, isn't any different. And I think what stands out in my mind is the way he leads. I think he's always pushing guys to be the best that they can be. And, it's a privilege to be around him.
Does anybody ever bust his chops about it? I mean, make UPS jokes or anything like that? Or is that off limits?
I wouldn't say it's off limits. We were trying to get Dez to get snacks shipped in UPS, but I don't know. We'll see if that happens or not.
How does the competition change when you're on a team where there are a lot of...
I'm sorry?
How does the competition change when you're on a team with a lot of players on these kind of one-year permanent deals?
I don't necessarily. I think for one, it creates an atmosphere when you're out at practice where guys understand that this might be their last opportunity or this might be the best opportunity they've gotten in a couple years. So the competition out at practice is at a high level. And when you're able to do that, it creates game-like situations and game-like scenarios that when this team gets out there and we start week one, I think guys will feel very comfortable with where they're at.
Even though you're not necessarily in that situation because you have a 2-year contract, translate everything. Do you feel like that in some ways too?
Yeah, no doubt. I think one of the biggest lessons I learned while I was in Tennessee is that, it is a merit-based business and you have to perform. And, in this position, there's always going to be guys that are coming in that, want to play what's in your spot. So I think day in and day out, you have to continue to prove not only to yourself, but to the people around you that you can play and you can lead. So I don't take this opportunity very lightly.
Is there like an unspoken bond between people like that, players like that, like where you kind of know, like, all right, we're both in it, maybe we've been overlooked or underlooked, and now we can help each other?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think a lot of guys, I've played with a few guys over the course of the last couple of years that are kind of in that situation. So there is a bond. I think there's a relationship. There's an easy rapport. So I would agree with that. But I think what's kind of cool about this team is everybody gets along really well. You're not cliquey. There's not like different groups of people. I think really everyone just likes to hang out with each other, which I think in the long run will be good for us.
Does throwing to Kyle remind you of throwing to anybody else you've thrown, just in terms of the way he runs his route, the type of player he is?
No, I wouldn't sit here and compare him to anybody else. I think he's got a very unique skill set, one that benefits us, and we just got to find ways to get him the ball.
Did you have to adjust to him at all just because to get used to his speed at that size? Was there anything about him that you thought, I have to treat this a little differently?
Not necessarily. I think he really makes it easy on us. For a guy that his size, his catch radius, his length, his ability to get in and out of cuts, makes it easy on us. His body language as a receiver makes it simple. So we know when he's coming in and out of breaks. We know when he's going to break down. So it's a credit to him. And I think as we continue through camp, that's just going to continue to grow.
He's talked about his route running and trying to improve it. In terms of that skill, is he a premature route runner for a year or two guy, you think?
From what I've seen, yeah. Everyone's got a skill set. Everyone can always get a little better at some things. And, for Kyle, it's just continuing to push some of those things so that, he can run really anything on the field that allows him to get in different situations and different matchups.
How close do you think he is to being able to run anything on the field?
I would say he's pretty close, yeah.
When you look at AJ, going against AJ now for a week, not always in pads or speed, what is it that makes him problematic for the ball?
I think from a standpoint that he is physical, he's very athletic, obviously. Just being around him, his football IQ is very high. You can see that he's pattern reading. He's kind of understanding what's going on. So, for a young player, at least for me, I think it's pretty impressive.
Marcus, Mr. Beginner here with the Keith. But what was it like having the first day of padded practice today for you guys?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Anytime the pads come on, intensity rises a little bit. But I thought guys came, especially coming off a day off, guys were out there ready to go.
As a vet, you like how you're kind of eased back into things with the pads and kind of ramping it up as you go, I guess?
I mean, for me, I don't get touched. Pads for me don't really make a difference. But no, I think you look around, guys are fresh, especially coming off a day off. Guys are running around great. So I really like with how our schedule's going and how Coach Smith has, built it.
You might not get touched, but you feel some heat. We were talking with Jake about the competition overall on the line. You sense those guys a little bit more, just knowing that there's some open spots and then collectively compete a little bit more.
Yeah, and from a standpoint too, that I think they all understand that if they push each other, the whole room's gonna get better. So when you have leaders like Jake in there that can kind of rally the troops and get guys going, you can see it. The play on the offensive line has really elevated and makes us all excited.
Marcus, what would you say? We heard Arthur and Dean both talk about culture and building and all these things that are not on the field. Can you speak to what that feels like now that you're a part of this? Can you see where that is vital to the success overall of this team?
No doubt. I think if you look across the league, everyone's very talented. I think, game in and game out, there's going to be guys on the other side of the ball that you're like, he's a great player. This and that. And I think we have those type of players here. But what it comes down to is, talent can only take you so far. When you have a group of guys that are willing to sacrifice and go out there and put in the work, that's when your team gets better and, you start getting guys that really believe in what you're doing. So it's fun. It's fun to be around. I think we got a young group of guys that really just enjoy being around each other, enjoy coming out and competing. And that's half the battle, man. If you can get that out of your young cats, I think you're going to do pretty good and do some good things.
I know you wouldn't admit it when you were in previous teams and previous cultures, but have you seen a disconnect in how bad culture, not what it is right now, leads to bad success or poor performances and vice versa?
Yeah, no doubt. unfortunately, with how the NFL is, like we talked about a little earlier, it is a merit-based business, and you're paid accordingly. So, guys sometimes, we'll think selfishly and we'll focus on what is, their motives. And it makes it tough, if a guy's not going to be willing to sacrifice, maybe not to get an extra yard on that third down because he's worried about getting hurt or, something along the lines of that. It is tough because, you're sitting there, you're kind of climbing an uphill battle. But what's fun about this team is it is young, and some of those guys don't necessarily understand that part of it yet. So you can kind of help mold them a little bit and try to help them understand that if you just come out here and compete, and if we win games, everyone else around you will get what they want.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.